let you be who you are and let the world see who you are. And that was the beauty of it. So I will say that those 15 years, the gift of it taking that long is that I'm literally doing who I am. Like, who you see on camera is who I am. Like, it's not, there is no fluff. Like, yeah, I have my hair and makeup done, but that's normal, right? Like, you expect it on TV. But in terms of like the stories and the way that I'm presenting and the way that I, interact with the few guests that I've had on, that is organically and intrinsically who I am. And there's beauty in that because they just didn't come and try to reshift me. They didn't try to repackage me or rebrand me. They're like, this is who you are. Let's show the world who you are.
Hey, and welcome back to the Oz Shift podcast. As always, I'm your host, Anthony Trucks, and we have another incredible guest. The cool thing is I am blessed to have the opportunity to speak with people who are making shift happen in the world. And that's the fun thing is watching people work, but also sometimes get behind the head and the heart of what they do, how they do it. And if you can extract something cool, you can plug into your life. And so today's guest is an individual who started out in the realm of like want to go down the path of like law. And they're like, we're going to head down this path. And they're in a cushy corporate job doing that thing. And then somehow, following a love they had from childhood, they kind of delved into this world of cooking and traveling. And next thing you know, they kind of got introduced to a really cool world. We're brought into TV shows. We're guests on shows with amazing cooks that you know the names of that maybe they'll divulge. And at this point, they've been on like the Hallmark Channel Today, NBC News, the Huffington Post, Telemoon, more than I can list. I'm going to stop listing because there's vastly too many. And now she's in a place where she has, after 15 plus years, finally got a goal achieved, which we're going to unpack and talk about, which is a big one, a really, really big one. And I want you not to just listen to what she accomplished, but we're going to unpack who she is and how she got there. So without further ado, please welcome to the show, Chef Bren Herrera. How are you?
Hey, how are you? Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining me. I'm excited to have you. I like cool people, and you seem like a cool person. I want to get to.
You sound like a cool person too, Anthony.
Well,
I've
thank
been reading
you.
up on you, so I'm like, I like what he's doing with his podcast.
I appreciate it. I try to do cool things. I've always told in the past that good people find good people. So I'm like, all right, let the world unfold how it unfolds. So here's the question I always start with. You can take it wherever you want, but it opens the heart a little bit. You could be as kind of, we'll call it boastful as you like. But here's the question. I'm walking around town. I sit down next to this amazing looking person. This person happens to be you. And you start talking to me. Why should I listen to you?
Whoa, I've never been asked that question. Why should you listen to me? One, because I'm a crazy fun person to be around.
Cool.
I lived with this mantra of hashtag live in love. Mm-hmm. And when you live in love, you act in love. So I am a social butterfly. I get that from my mom. Sometimes I wish I weren't because I literally find myself talking to
everybody,
people who don't want to be spoken to and people who don't want to be bothered.
Yeah.
But I find that whether you want to be spoken to or not, or whether you invite the conversation or not, you're always going to walk away like, oh, that chick was dope. Like, she just gave me something to think about that I hadn't thought about before, or she just gave me an anecdote that I had never experienced before or heard of. I always like to make people feel good, and a great lesson that a friend taught me. You know how someone shares a nugget with you and it just kind of stays with you and you try to abide by that, or it impacts you?
Yeah, you tell people about it later on too.
Right. Yeah. So you know how they say the golden rule is treat people how you want to be treated?
Yeah.
But this friend of mine, many years ago, imparted on me the platinum rule, and that is treat people how they want to be treated. And so that removes self from situations. It's always about reading that person with whom you're spending time and then kind of pouring into them. So whether it's a stranger like you at a coffee shop, a restaurant, whatever, grocery store, if the chips fall where they're supposed to, my goal is to make you feel like you're the only person in the room.
I like that. It's funny as you're like like me. My wife hates this though, because I'll go to like places and just talk to somebody like, hey, I really like shoes you got. Where'd you get those? Why are you bothering that person? Because I want to know. And I ask these questions. And I also, Stephen Covey does say in one of his books, he says, treat everyone the same by treating everyone differently. which is kind of in the
Yeah.
same
Ooh.
pocket. I like that because I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, like when I parent my kids, when I deal with my wife,
Yeah.
same stuff. Everybody's different. So I love this because I think that's one of the things that most people don't grasp is the hearts of the most successful humans are typically like service hearts because you're talking about I'm going to serve you. I don't know you, but I'm going to serve you in this conversation. So I would love to go back to get the foundation of the heart, the human, the soul. Where did that come from? Because not everybody, as you know, carries that mentality or that perspective. Was this something instilled at like as a kid? Was this something you found over hardship? Like what's the navigational point to here?
Well, I also appreciate that question because it's something that I have spent, I think, a few years intentionally kind of delving into myself and trying to unpack, to use your word, why I move in that direction. I'm a very service driven person. And I say that very humbly and very modestly because it really is a driving force in my life.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think I finally got the answer. And that is, you kind of take inventory and stock of your life and who you are and, what things have happened in your life to get you where you are. And uh, quite frankly, I mean, it's pretty in my face. I'm an immigrant woman. I was born in Cuba,
Mm.
which is still a communist country.
Yeah.
And my parents left at a very um, pointed time in Cuban politics because Cuba had just gotten to this revolution and
Yeah.
the U.S. was not successful. And I don't want to over politicize this, but the U.S. was not successful in our efforts.
Hmm.
And so my parents were political refugees, which means
Gotcha.
that they left under duress.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've grown up in an environment and home that has been incredibly sensitive to just the basic needs that humans have.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have those basic needs. They were able to get them, over time. But you and I can go to Target or
Yeah.
go to whatever favorite store we want and go shopping, right? Like I did this morning. I had a quick run this morning,
Mhm.
but that's not,
The norm there.
that's just not the case there.
I've been to Cuba actually.
So
I've seen
I
it.
think, have you really?
Yeah. If I took we went on a
Oh,
cruise,
wow.
which was that's not the most, but we actually went and we got a taxi and he drove us all over the place. Places we probably wasn't the safest as well, but now
Probably
I've
would
been
not
there.
have ended up at, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think just having been exposed and been raised in an environment where my parents, I waste not, want not, right? Like you can't waste your food because people in Cuba are starving. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, we have a grocery store down the street. We can go buy food whenever.
Yeah.
But as an adult now and I run my life, obviously, I
Yeah.
take those things I take those things to the heart because
Yeah.
I realize that not everyone has those
Everything.
same affordabilities.
Yeah. I wonder if that
So
like
it's
leads to That's kind
pardon
of
me?
it's got to be some part like I feel that hard because I grew up like poor too. So I wonder if there's I think that the most served people feel like I get it. Although I'm climbing and doing my thing, there's an empathy that trickles into probably how you show up behind the scenes. People don't see and how you treat people, how you do
Oh
things. It
yeah.
probably endears you to humans too.
No, I'm a textbook empath. And again,
Okay. Yeah.
not always. I sometimes wish I weren't because it kind of, yeah, it's heavy to be an empath. It's heavy, but it is. Look, the world needs all kinds of people and
Yeah.
all kinds of characters in order for it to work.
Yeah.
So everyone plays a role, and I have owned and accepted that that's just who I am.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
It's
Like,
good though.
again, everybody plays a role.
I agree. We all have to play a role because if not, then no one's going to be that. Then it's eliminated. And then you
Exactly.
start feeling funky, and you get like the thing we talk about is guilt as well. Like we have these guilty feelings because of whatever, and usually it's like self-imposed
Right.
and kind of self. Which so you go through this world of growing up there, and then like when you got here, what was the journey? How did it change? Like, and then how much of it sticks with you into the like called adult or professional world now from those years?
Well, and my environment was very structured. I come from a very large family, and I'm
Yeah.
so thankful for that. I've got four siblings, and my parents. I've been
Oh, cool.
married 53 years, and we are like this. We
Yeah.
have a family thread
That's nice.
that we're active in it all day, every day.
Yeah.
And my father was a political journalist. His entire
Oh,
80% of his
wow.
professional career.
That's cool.
So I was always exposed to forward thinking or critical thinking and problem solving, and again, this very subtle understanding of empathy because we have family in Cuba that doesn't get to live the way that we live.
Yeah.
So that structure and that push for doing better and doing more than what my parents were able to do kind of led to me wanting to, be a lawyer because, you're either going to become a lawyer or a doctor or an engineer, the kind of that typical narrative, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I moved in that way, and I made decisions according to that. But the caveat in all of that is that I'm an artist at heart and in my core.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a
Singer.
creative.
Yeah.
And that's where I probably depart from everyone else in my nucleus family, like my nuclear family, like my mom, my dad, my siblings. And there was friction there. Like I wanted so badly to, yes, be this critical thinker and be this defender of human rights, vis-a-vis law school and becoming a lawyer. But the cards weren't there for me. So I've always been an artist. Like I love performing and I love singing and I love drama and I love art and all this stuff. So
you have an album too, right? Didn't you actually do an album? I read.
I actually started. Yes, I started recording an album.
That's cool.
In 2005. I never finished it, but never say never because there's always an opportunity.
True.
And I just took this really huge leap of faith in 2005. And I don't know that I actually would have done it, but not for the fact that I was kind of forced into taking this jump. I was working in law, and I don't know if this is where you want to go.
I want wherever you want. This is actually a podcast called Oz Shift. I feel like we're hitting into your Oz Shift moment where you're like, okay, something changed.
This is definitely the Oz Shift moment.
Oh, let's go.
100%.
Good.
Yeah. So I was, so I got into law school. I deferred at DePaul, started a program at Georgetown, DePaul in Chicago.
Okay.
Started a program at Georgetown. And then I was like, let me sit out for a year and see if I really, truth be told, like, let me walk it back. Actually, the reason I deferred, I don't think I've ever actually shared this. The reason I deferred was because my financial aid did not come through in time for me to start at DePaul.
Gotcha.
So I deferred a year. In the meantime, started a program at Georgetown.
Okay.
And then continued that year out just to kind of see if this is what I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
And got really comfortable really quickly with the money I was making and the fact that I was able to like do what I wanted to do. Like
Freedom,
my parents instilled in us at a very early age the love of travel and exposing ourselves to cultures.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was like, oh, I'm making enough money where I think I can travel. And so I started traveling and the bug hit me. And then I got comfortable in my job and I didn't go back to law school. I deferred it one more year.
Yeah.
So anyhow, so then I spent 10 to 12 years working in law, corporate, here in DC, doing corporate securities, doing patent work. And when the Silicon Valley boom was happening back in the 90s, I was very much a part of that. So I lived in California for about a month working on the Napster case. You remember Napster?
I do. I got in trouble when I was in college in Oregon, and I'm actually from the Bay Area. I live an hour from Silicon Valley. So I'm well aware. Yeah, we all know about that out here.
So I worked on the Napster case with very prominent attorneys. But anyhow, fast forward 2005. Emotionally, I was tapping out because I was, again, struggling with being this artist. And I had already started recording the album.
Yeah.
I was performing locally here in DC as a backup singer. And I was taking my cello to work because I was highly bored at the office when we were in this particular trial. And I got laid off in March of 2005.
Wow.
And let me tell you, I was crushed and devastated because I didn't see it coming. I was totally blindsided. In fact, the partners for whom I worked were also blindsided. They did not know. This came from the corporate office in
way above
head firm in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And so I was left, Anthony, with this, oh my gosh, I have no savings. I don't have a plan. I don't know what I'm going to do. I did, by God's grace, have an interview, a lateral interview scheduled the next day. Like, no lie. This is how it all worked out.
Just all of a sudden.
I had I had an interview the next day.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that. I got laid off on a Monday. The interview was on a Tuesday. And it was pouring rain in DC.
Yeah.
I took the interview and I literally left the interview. In the middle of the interview, I told the lady,
oh, wow.
I was like, I gotta go. The meter's like about to expire and I'm not trying to get a ticket. So I literally cut the interview short in the middle of this
Cut up and left. Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. And they actually offered me the job.
Did they?
The crazy part about
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah.
The job.
That's crazy. Well, they do say that sometimes your good's better than most great. So your good must have been better than most great.
Oh, God. So I didn't take the job, obviously,
Yeah.
and I prayed, and I said, I'm not going back to corporate. Like, I
Okay.
deserve to give myself an opportunity and a chance to see if this works, like whatever this is.
Yeah.
And so at the time, the thing that I was doing music and fashion at the time.
Okay.
And I said, whatever, I'm not going
Go
back to
try it
work.
out.
I'm going to figure this out some way, somehow.
Yeah.
And I did, which is
It's crazy.
probably why it's taken me so long to get to where I am, because I did not have a blueprint. I didn't have a backup plan. I didn't
Yeah.
have a plan B. I didn't
Yeah.
have a mentor. I just kind of made this very harsh decision
Yeah.
literally overnight. And it worked out
Yeah.
eventually.
But I think
But
it's
it was
good that
very,
it did
very,
that.
very
Because I
difficult.
mean, well, and I do want you to kind of press on where you went, because now we're at a point where like you had a
Sure,
TV
yeah.
show, your name on, it's beautiful. Right? It's an awesome, cool thing. It's so exciting to hear that. I like that. I like when good people do good things. But you
Yeah.
did what a lot of human beings don't. They hear the voice and they go, ah, shut up, voice. Or you said, oh, tune it up and turn it up, right? So, what was the thing that possessed you to go, I'm going to take this crazy leap? Because I do believe that you said something that is the most powerful piece. You said, I made a decision. When we own the decision, it's our thing, we will dive in head first to make it work, no matter what it is and the moments of it. So when you make this choice, first off, like what were some of the things that may have deterred you from it, that you had to overcome to go, I'm making this choice? Was it family? Was it, thoughts of maybe lack of ability to do it? Like what was the thing that you had to battle? And then tell me where you're at now and the journey it took to get there.
Sure. So, gosh, you're a great interview. You have great questions. I like
I
this. I
make them
like
up
this
as
because
I
it actually
go.
helps me.
I'm just asking out of pure curiosity. There's none of this is planned.
Wow. Which is actually good, because you said something now that helps me, and I'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
So, challenges, when this little head voice was like, go all in, B.
Mm.
I don't know, man. If I think about who I was as a little girl,
Mm-hmm.
I was always I knew what I wanted. Like, I knew what I liked. I loved Whitney Houston, and I used to look at her and be like, I'm going to be a singer one day. Like, I'm going to be on stage and I'm going to be performing. And I loved how she made me feel. And I was really, really driven. Like, I was just a driven child. But I didn't always overperform, like, especially in contrast to my sister, who is a doctor, and she was like a straight A student and incredibly studious, and polar opposite of me in terms of our personalities. But I was always very driven. So when I made that decision, I was up against no savings, right?
Yep.
I was up against, where was I going to go, literally, physically, and like work-wise. Like, was I going to stay in DC? Because DC, even at the time, was expensive. And if I wasn't going to go back to work, how was I going to literally survive, right?
Yeah.
And then, what is my plan, and how much time do I have to put a plan together for it to work? So I didn't have answers at all. So what I did do was I called my very best friend, whom I've known since I was in middle school, and he had 2 extra bedrooms in his house, and I said, I need to come stay with you for 6 months, because I'm giving up my place.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay. Like, literally, like, it happened that quickly. And I think literally within 45 days of me getting laid off. And I stayed with him for 6 months. And in those 6 months, that's when I spent a lot of time by myself, because I wasn't going into an office. And I said, okay, B, you can literally do this. Like, this is your one shot to not go back to work and really explore this artistry. The thing that I think I did know was that if it failed for whatever reason, I could always go back to law school. I could always go back to working in
catching
law.
that.
I was young, I was young enough where I still had time to quickly make up if it didn't work. But I still didn't have a plan, and I regret not having sought out a mentor or an advisor or someone in the business world that could help me. But I didn't know that I needed to do that.
Yeah.
I was just so determined to not go back to work in that space that I was going to make it work by all means necessary.
No matter what,
so I got laid off in March of 2005, and in January 6, 2006, I moved to Atlanta to pursue this music career that I have been so passionate about since I was a little girl. And I sang professionally when I lived in Atlanta. I toured overseas.
That's cool.
A couple of times doing jazz and R&B and jazz, R&B, and gospel. But that wasn't paying the bills. It was a very glorified experience.
Looks cool,
touring with this ensemble. But the bills still got to get paid, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Uh, so then this was the next big shift. So the 2005 layoff was a really big shift.
Mhm.
And then in 2007, just 2 years later, still no major plan in Atlanta. I was singing, I was picking up, this project of recording this album.
Yeah.
And then I started doing this charity event in Atlanta to support the AIDS community in Atlanta. And that has roots in the pro bono work that I used to do in DC when I
Oh,
worked in
okay.
law.
Gotcha.
So I really wanted to support the AIDS community and kind of be an extension of the work that I was doing in DC. And through that charity event called Creative Cause, because it was a whole bunch of creative people for a cause, the word got out that I like to cook and that I cook pretty well.
Yeah.
And a certain person invited me to come cook on Good Day Atlanta on January 1st, 2008.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, that might be cool to go on TV and cook and teach Atlanta how Black and Latino people celebrate the new year. Again, never been on TV a day in my
Just
life.
took the leap. I love it.
Did not have a blog.
Yeah.
Blogs were very new back in 2008.
Yeah.
Didn't have a website, didn't have any connection to the food industry, nothing. I had literally nothing, Anthony.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, why not go on TV and see where this goes? And sure enough, I was in DC December 26, 2007, got the call. My good friend who's a photographer happened to be with me. I was like, I need a logo right now. Called another friend. I was like, I need a website right now, so that when I went on Fox 5, Good Day Atlanta on January 1st, I had a logo and I had a website.
Yeah.
And the rest is literally what I say, her story.
Okay.
I did a 2-hour remote.
I like that. Well done.
I did a 2-hour remote. I did a 2-hour remote cooking segment, not knowing anything about TV whatsoever.
Yeah.
I mean, if I go back and look at the food that I cooked and the outfit that I wore, I'd be like, oh my God, who are you?
That's a good beginning, though.
Then,
you always want those moments to look back and look, because then it becomes real.
And then Emeril Lagasse called me 2 months later to appear as his guest on a brand new show that he had on Discovery Network. And I flew up from Atlanta to DC to film. And that's how it all got.
It all came unrolling.
That's how. Yeah,
that's so cool. Because I think the thing is, we hear these stories, people hear them, and they assume that there must have been this crazy, overbearing confidence. And what you're pretty much saying is I had enough confidence to go do it. It's almost like you kind of let life lead a little bit, because these things were opening up.
I 100% I 100% let life lead, because I didn't have that infrastructure. I didn't have that guidance. I didn't have, and I own that. I just didn't know that I should have gone to somebody.
Yeah.
But I love, again, I'm a creative, right?
Yeah.
So the blog was such a perfect medium for me to express all these thoughts and tell all these stories and really introduce anybody who would listen and read. I wanted to introduce them to my culture, who I am as a Black woman, as a Latina, as an immigrant, and how food has always kind of guided the energy in my parents' home. And it was beautiful. The blog really, really, really is what the catapult was for where I am today. The blog helped me make a lot of connections. I got invited to do a lot of TV through the blog and was featured everywhere back in 2000. I would say from 2008 through 12, I was everywhere in media.
Yeah.
Because there was nobody else really doing what I was doing. There wasn't another Afro-Latina who was sharing the culture through recipes and food. In that way, there were a few in the islands, but nobody that was really doing it and having that kind of impact here in the States.
Gotcha.
So yeah,
that's cool. I think there's probably more to it that I don't know if we always see it, because there's been moments I can go back to my life and go, oh, I just did this, I was there, but then somebody once pointed out, they said, no, you weren't just there, you were there. And I think a lot of people, they hear these things, they show up to certain moments, and they're so in their head about what could go wrong, and they don't let them out. And I got a feeling that when Emeril calls you 2 months later, it's not because he saw this rigid, stiff, not loose woman on television. He probably saw this woman he connected to and the human of you. And it almost sounds like the way that the human came out is you had an investment in showing up, but not an investment in what it would turn into. So you just were you. Do you find
I literally had no idea what it would turn into. I just said, okay, it's Emeril Lagasse. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
And I get to now see what it is. Now I get to see what it's like to be on TV, not just a morning show appearance. Because again, these morning show appearances, and I love them because I've been doing them for 16 years, 15 years, are great and they're necessary. But the Emeril appearance was my first time with like a huge TV production crew. Like I had 5 and 6 cameras following me,
Yeah.
lights everywhere, hair, makeup.
Yeah.
Like that was literally my first time having been exposed to that.
Yeah.
And for me, Anthony, that was the moment where I was like, lights went off and I was like, this is what I want to do with my life.
Boom. I love
But
it.
I didn't know how to go about it. Like I didn't know anything about anything with regard to going after a TV career.
Yeah. Well, you good though.
But
I think not
I
knowing
was
is
like,
good.
I'm gonna get there, and I'm gonna do it through this. Like this blog is gonna eventually get me there, and it has.
I can tell.
But it's been a hard
Let's go into that.
journey.
Because the thing is, so we have this process we do in our coaching programs called the shift method. And you, the way I frame it for some simplistically is like there's a shift, not just in what you do, but who you are. The human you are now is vastly different who you were. It's an identity shift, we call it. But there's usually 3 stages we work through. The first one's the C stage, which is you saw, I don't want to do this. You saw, holy crap, I could do this. Now you're saying it was hard, which is the shift stage. It goes C, shift, sustain. Take me into the shift stage. What was the shift into, like you're talking about now, to lead in, to stay down this pathway? What did you have to navigate that most people fall short at that you just kept pushing through?
So blogging was the new thing, right? Like everybody who had something to say and wanted to share something got a blog.
True.
Right? If you remember, Blogspot was like I think one of the very first platforms. So I had a fashion blog back in 2005. So really that's what kicked it off, like fashion and culture in 2005. And then, but it wasn't going anywhere and I wasn't really invested in it because again, I just didn't know where I was going to go with this, especially after I got laid off. But the food blog, I felt like really had legs that I could use to really grow something. I just didn't know how that was going to happen. But I knew that, again, blogs were a really big thing. Food blogs were becoming a really, really big thing because people wanted recipes and they wanted to just kind of connect to family and friends through food. And for me, it just made sense because I could continue telling these really dynamic cultural stories through food and in introducing people to other food.
Yeah.
And I started travel writing about a year and a half before I launched the food blog. And so I incorporated all that travel into the food blog. So now it was food traveling. So now I was traveling the world, exploring food cultures, food ways, all this stuff, and then coming back and blogging about it.
That's cool.
So I was like, oh, I dig this. Like, I really like this autonomy of traveling, which is freedom, but also writing, which is educating the audience, and then cooking. So those 3 things worked for me, but I didn't have, again, this recipe. I just knew that if I was consistent with it,
it would work out.
That's the biggest word I will give anybody in any realm of work, professional or even personal, is the consistency piece.
I'd agree. That's
so
why
as other blogs continued to grow, others started fizzling off because blogging just wasn't really sustainable. Like you had to really monetize it for it to make sense. And I was seeing and finding that a lot of bloggers had full-time jobs. So the blogging was kind of like their side thing, right? It was their side hustle that they were making a few coins off of here and there. But I was so determined to not go back to work. So I was pressed to make this work. And so I was doing private events. I was doing catering. I was writing for some fancy glossy travel magazines. I used to do some food columns for different magazines online. So I was bringing very minimal income in, very, very minimal income in. But I was committed and consistent with this larger idea that I could be on TV and I could really have a platform to impact people's lives. So
was there any
the
opposition
shift for
there?
me was just stay with it, B. Like stick with it. Just stick with it. Like you're good at what you do. Just stick with it.
So
I'll tell you, pardon me?
No, go ahead. I don't want to stop you. I just have a question. But I want you to, keep going. Keep going.
Yeah, I had 1,000 rejections. Like I remember 2009, Food Network approached me about auditioning for next Food Network star. And I'm like, yes, like this is going to be it. Like how audacious though of me, right? How
it's good.
Audacious of me.
That was my question. It's like, do you have any opposition?
Yeah. So just 1 year into this whole food thing, I think that I can go, actually compete on next Food Network Star and actually have a chance to win. So I did. Like I auditioned, and I actually made it to the final. I was a finalist. I didn't actually get on the show, and that's a whole other conversation that I can't get into. But I actually became a finalist, a semi-finalist rather. And so I was just always audacious, man. I was always like, I can do this, I can do this. So
Yeah.
my point is that 1,000 rejections,
Yeah.
and this is my mantra now when people ask me, how did you get to where you were, or what was that thing that helped you get to where you were, even though it's been 15 years? I always said yes to me, right? So Food Network said no to me
Yeah.
4 times. The Travel Channel said no to me twice. Cooking Channel said no to me. Like I have
A
a
list of the
right,
no's, huh?
all the no's that I've gotten.
Yeah.
But in every one of those no's, I said, okay, yes to me. I'm
Yeah.
going to continue, and I'm going to keep moving forward with this.
I love it. That was my question, actually, is what oppositions you have? Because I get it. I mean, you have to push. I mean, I think the common mind understands that, but it's hard to push when you get the push back. So, like, I get, like, no, like, I play professional sports. They cut you. You go home, you're like, oh, man, I suck. Or, like, I just, I try to get on shows and things to do now, and you get those responses like, nah. So it's hard to push back and lean in. I love that you framed it in that way. Like, I just said yes to me, because that does create the energy to keep you moving in the direction. So you've got this mentality of I'm going to keep going, and you push through. It takes you 15 years. Sounds like a baseball player trying to get from the AAA to the majors, right? So we're now at this mark now of 15 years, and I would love for you to finally unpack. What do you have? What do you create? Because I think I want to be able to go back and forth and kind of connect the dots between those moments of where most people go, sounds good, but I don't think I could have went through that to get there. Give us the we'll call it the carrot at the end of the stick.
So I moved back to DC in 2012 because I was done with Atlanta. I felt like I had tapped out. I had explored everything that I was going to explore. The music career for me did not work out the way that I really, really wanted it to.
Yeah.
But I was like, food is what it's going to be. So I moved back, and look, I'll give you one quick story. Rock Nation, I've never shared this publicly. Rock Nation came after me twice to be the private chef for one of their top players for the Yankees, one of the Yankees' top players. And I just, I talked to my team and my lawyer, and we looked at the contract, and I just didn't like. It just like the money just wasn't right, and that I the only reason I was sharing that is because I want to impart on your audience, particularly people who are trying to make that shift, what to use to guide them to make these decisions. So this was literally almost a decade ago, maybe, and they were asking a lot of me. Like they were asking a lot of me for what I considered to not have been enough compensation.
Okay.
So I said like we just weren't able to negotiate terms. So literally just in 2019, I was having that conversation with a brother, like a family friend brother of mine, who's he's big in the boxing world. And he was like, sis, you should have taken the job. Because that job, even though it wasn't the money you deserved and that you were worth, it could have opened so many doors for you. Like you would have been working with Rock Nation. You would have been with the Yankees. And then this particular player went off to another team, and they called me back when he transitioned to another team. And I just didn't have that guidance at the time to think,
see that,
big scale, long term. That could have created other opportunities. So that was a situation now retrospectively that kind of kept me in a slower pace. So when I say it took me 15 years, those kinds of decisions where I wasn't thinking long game, right? I was thinking like right now in the moment, like the check's not going to be right.
Well, I get it though. That's what you've been doing the whole time. Is like you said, food. I guess put food on the table. So whenever you're doing your thing, like right? you're like, I can get that. It's understandable.
So in 2019, I was still chugging along, doing private events, doing a lot of morning TV shows, and my work had transitioned to being a spokesperson, and still is, for major brands that you and I both know. So I would develop recipes, go on camera, and just kind of leverage my network of media to support these brands and their messaging. But TV still had not happened the way that I wanted to, right? Like I was still just doing morning TV, Today Show, Hallmark, and these are all wonderful, very necessary experiences.
Yeah.
But here is where this shift happened.
All right.
In literally February 2020.
Oh, last year.
Literally the beginning of the pandemic. I got a call from a production company in New York. Literally, like out of nowhere. And it's happened. My life has happened that way. Like I'll get these out of nowhere phone calls or emails.
Yeah.
And they weren't referrals. They're literally just somebody who like my name popped up somehow. And they invited me to get this, Anthony. They invited me to co-host 4 episodes of an existing cooking show on Clio TV with a chef already on there.
Yeah.
And again, money wasn't right. And I was like, oh my God, like really? Like we're still here, like we're still doing this? Like it's 2020. Like we're literally still doing this. So again, I was like, let me talk to my team, and I made the decision to forego the fact that it wasn't what I needed and what I deserved and what I'm valued at.
Yeah.
Because I was like, this will be my first time, right, in the last 15 years to work with a production company for 2 days straight and actually co-host an existing show that's already in season 2.
Yeah.
So it'll give the production company and the network an opportunity to see how I work and what I bring to the table, not just a 3 or 4 minutes live hit in morning TV. So I was like, I got to do this. Like, because if I don't do it, it won't happen.
True.
Right? If I do it, something could come out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I went up to New York last February 2020, and I filmed 4 episodes of New Soul Kitchen on Clio. And it, like, everything just clicked, Anthony. Like, literally everything clicked. I felt so, and it wasn't even my show. Like, I was there as his co-host.
Just co-host, yeah.
But everything clicked. It just made sense, and the flow was right. The vibe was right.
Yeah.
The production company is run by 2 phenomenal Black women who know food. And look, by the way, I've been offered deals by every imaginable production company from LA to New York to Miami.
Yeah.
And it just hasn't worked out. And so when I left set, so I kicked off the whole season filming because I was one of 4 guests.
Gotcha.
When I was in the car on the way back to the hotel, and Rochelle, this executive producer, she was like, "You're good. You're really, really good. I'm going to get you a show."
Ooh.
But so here I'm like, I've heard this before, right?
Yeah,
like
I
I've
bet.
literally been to the song and dance. So I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
all right. But I knew that there was something different about it because not only did I actually work with them for 2 full days, and I was on set for 12 hours, and I co-hosted 4 episodes. But they were Black women, and they were of the culture, and they got me.
They
I
knew,
felt for the first time that somebody finally understood who I am and what I represent and what my story is.
Yeah.
And so sure enough, so fast forward, that was February of 2020.
Yeah.
On my birthday, November 2nd, 2020, I got a call from the production company. And they said, hey, you didn't know, but we pitched a show to the network, and they loved it, and we want to offer you your own show.
Ooh.
Literally.
That's so cool.
Unbeknownst to me, did not see it coming.
Yeah.
And
what were you doing then?
it was
what
like
was
one
it?
of
What were you in the
those
middle of doing? Like, were you just sitting at home hanging out? Because I'm assuming you're still in the same natural flow. Like when this came in, what was also going on in life?
So I was literally still doing morning TV. Like, so November is when you're like pitching a lot of holiday content for brands to go on TV. So a lot of my job is pitching brands to go on TV and do holiday segments, right, with their product, and doing private events, like, high-end private events or whatever. So I was really in the middle of that. Hadn't traveled because of the pandemic and everything, anything that I would have normally been doing last year, I really wasn't. So there was, to be honest with you, a moment last year where I was like, oh my gosh, like, where's my next check gonna come from? Because people aren't doing live events. Like all of the speaking engagements that I had been booked for in 2020 were canceled.
Same here.
And I had gotten really creative last year. Like I launched a cooking school, an online cooking school for kids. I launched a virtual corporate experience system for corporate clients who needed virtual experiences for their
people,
for their employees or their customers. So I was really busy doing that. But in terms of TV, like we couldn't go into the studios. Everything was being done virtually. Yeah. So it was my birthday, so I don't know exactly what I was doing that morning. But I got the call on my birthday, which was so serendipitous. And Rochelle didn't even know that it was my birthday.
Oh, really? It's a good birthday present to get.
No. Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
And we spent all of February, March, and April of this year in pre-production and kind of figuring out what this show was going to be. Yeah. And the beauty of it, Anthony, was that I have spent the last 15 years establishing my brand, right? The Bren Herrera brand, House of Bren. And they didn't want to rebrand me. They didn't want to
Yeah.
They didn't need to media train me. They didn't want to repackage me. They didn't want to have me come out as somebody who I'm not. Like
Yeah.
it was, we have been studying you. We want to celebrate you. We want to let you be who you are and
Yeah.
let the world see who you are.
That's gotta feel
And
good.
that was the beauty of it. So I will say that those 15 years, the gift of it taking that long is that I'm literally doing who I am. Like
Yeah.
who you see on camera is who I am. Like
Mhm.
it's not, there is no fluff. Like, yeah, I have my hair and makeup done, but that's normal, right? Like you
Yeah,
expect
yeah.
it on
That's
TV.
TV. Yeah.
But in terms of like the stories and the way that I'm presenting and the way that I, interact with the few guests that I've had on,
Mhm.
that is organically and intrinsically who I am.
Yeah.
And there's beauty in that because they just didn't come and try to reshift me.
Yeah.
They
That's what you want,
didn't try
though.
to repackage me or rebrand me. They're
Yeah.
like, this is who you are. Let's show the world who you
I
are.
think nowadays too, you can tell because we watch enough social media and television. I can tell if you're not being you,
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
probably
100%.
smart and wise because then people get to see you, the heart of you. And I think in a world, even the pandemic, when there's such a disconnect from true humanity is more celebrated. So we get to see you in your natural habitat, we'll call it.
Habitat,
It probably
right?
draws humans in so much more. I think there's a part of me that wants to know, like, were there times when you were like, I'm gonna go back to law? Like, were there times when it got to the point
Oh
maybe you
God.
questioned it? You're like, I don't know if I want to do this.
What?
Yeah.
Man, it feels like every 2 years, I'm like, yep, going back to law school.
Yeah.
Because again, there's a blueprint there, right?
Hmm.
You apply to law school, you go to law school, you graduate,
Yeah.
you start being recruited by law firms, you know what you want to practice, and you go and you become a partner and you make a lot of money and you succeed. Like there's an infra, that's the word I use when I talk to my friends about, the challenges. Like there's not been an infrastructure for me.
Yeah.
Law school, and having gone and had I gone in that path or gone back to that infrastructure would have made it so easy for me, right? I would have been able to amass money and resources that I'm only feeling like I'm finally starting to do a little bit,
Hmm.
but my heart just wasn't there. Like every time I've thought about going back to law school, literally every time I've thought about going back, like it just makes me cringe. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I have the feeling.
I don't know.
I get it.
But I
Yeah.
will say, there was a conversation. I literally, no lie, just 2 days ago, had a conversation with a good friend of mine, also former NFL player, who's now a financial advisor and planner.
Hmm.
And we were talking about, like, what do we want to, like, do we want another professional degree? And he's like, B, I'm thinking about going to law school. And I'm like, what? And I did say, and I admitted to him, I was like, that's something I would probably do just to feel like I satisfied something that I know I always wanted to do.
Close the loop.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get it.
But I definitely had that thought. Like,
Yeah. I was just thinking,
let me
'cause I
go
said,
back to law school.
15 years, a long time to go through it up and down. Because I get it. Like my degree's in
Oh, God, 15
kinesiology.
years.
Yeah, I
15
used
years is
to.
a
It's
long.
long. I'm probably like I was like 13 deep in this thing that I do now, right? I used like
Yeah.
my own thing, we'll call it. So I left the NFL. I had to figure out what to do, and I opened
Yeah.
the gym, and I know the gym. My degree's in kinesiology, and there's been times I'm like, man, I could easily just pop up shop somewhere and just do what I did with my eyes closed, and it'd be like so much smoother. But then I feel like I'd be letting my heart down. I honestly, I tell people I feel like I'd be robbing the world of the gift of me, which is what it sounds
Right.
like.
I like that.
You'd
Yeah.
be in the same place. So we don't do that.
Oh, I
So
like that. I like that.
right, it's
And
simple.
it was the easy. Clearly, what I'm learning about myself, even through this dialogue, is that I don't always take the easy route.
Mm,
My sister, like I said, she's a doctor, and there's an infrastructure there for her, right?
yeah.
And there's a plan every day. Every day that she goes to work, she knows what she has to get done.
Hmm.
Every day is different for me.
Same.
Literally every day is different for me. There is no blueprint. There is no agenda.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously, I have quarterly goals and I have
Yeah, yeah.
seasonal goals and annual goals, but every day is different. Like I don't report to anybody, which is also a challenge when there is no accountability
I
there,
get it.
because you have to be so disciplined. You have to be so determined to your craft and to that win, right? That
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
long-term win,
Mhm.
that you just have to make it work. And it's still 15 years in with a TV show, it's still not easy.
I
Like,
get, yeah.
just because I have a TV show does not make it easier. It just means I now have a larger platform,
Yeah.
and I get to really show off this craft and my talent. But it still takes discipline, because I banged out the show in 8 days, right? Like I
Yeah.
banged out season 1 in 8 days,
Yeah.
and I still have to work,
Mhm. I get it. I think for me, I think that you said a couple times, it makes sense as to why that's you as you're creative. I'm a creative too. I like to make and
Yeah.
do. And my wife doesn't get it sometimes. She's like, "Why do you just always like in a good mood?" I'm like, I get to do what I want for a living. But it's taken me years to
Yes,
get
you get to
here.
do what you want for a living.
Yeah, and my best friend's a police officer. He knows. He literally said to me, he goes, "I got 17 more years." And hearing the words made my heart crumble a little bit. I'm like, oh, if I knew what I was doing next week, it would unsettle me. And I found that
Right.
there's differences. It's not a bad difference. It just is difference. And there's stability and variety humans. He's a stability human. He has an
Right.
anchored comfort in knowing that. Whereas for me, I have an anchored comfort in knowing that I don't know. And it's just a difference, and it's
Right.
okay.
It's we operate, and I don't know if that's a right brain versus left brain thing, but like my sister is very methodical, and
Hmm.
she needs to, she needs to know, and she knows what her next 5 years literally look like. I
Mm.
literally don't. I know where I want
Yeah,
to go, and I know that I'll get there,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I know because they say experience is a great teacher. So
Hmm.
my experience has been that if I commit to it and I'm consistent with it, I will get there, and I've been able to do that. I just now I know that it can't take me as long as it's taken me to get here.
Yeah,
But now I have a slight infrastructure that I can rely on.
I dig it.
But I also am really good at manifesting,
Mm,
and
I could
so
tell.
but that's also because I say yes to myself, right? Like I say yes to
Yeah,
myself
and
because
you
I
lean back
deserve
in.
to be, yeah.
I think it's one of the
But
things that is
so
huge. Yeah.
at the 10-year mark, I was like, okay, they say it takes 10 years, right?
Where's it
So
at?
man, I was excited, Anthony. At the 10-year mark, I was like, yes, this is gonna be my coming out year. This is gonna be that shift year for
Yeah.
me. And yeah, no,
No.
yeah,
Yeah.
no,
But then you learn something, and then it's a hockey stick moment. Like all of a sudden, it's and then
yeah,
it picks up. So I got
yeah,
two final questions for you,
yeah,
and it's
sure.
hard. It's always hard to ask these because I want to like get all the answers, but this just wherever you want to answer. We're back at the same coffee shop, and I'm sitting there hanging out. I cannot respond to you, and you have, let's say, 30 to 60 seconds, and you have to impart on me a thought, a message, something that can carry my life into a great direction. Again, I can't respond to you. You get to say it. You get to, at that point, you have to get up, stand up, and walk out of the coffee shop. What do you tell me?
Mm. Oh my gosh, that is so profound. What do I tell you? Um, I would say yes to yourself.
Mm,
Yeah, I would
that's good.
say yes to you. Because again, when you say yes to you, everything can change.
Hmm.
Literally, it changes the way you think, it changes the way you move, it changes the way you respond,
Hmm.
it changes the way you love yourself, it changes the way you are present for others. And I'll give you an example. Um, I'm in a place in my life, a personal shift in my life where I want to operate in peace,
Yeah.
right? Peace. It's very important to me to just be in peaceful places and spaces and thrive in peaceful places. So if there's a situation that doesn't yield peace or doesn't uh, thrive in peace, then I'm saying yes, I want to be in peace, and I will remove myself from that situation,
Yeah, I like that.
right?
Hmm.
Um, I want to be really healthy, right? Because I want to be able to provide for my niece who's 17 months old and my
Yeah.
newborn nephew Jackson who's 4.5 and my sister's pregnant.
Yeah.
So I want their auntie to be healthy. So
Yeah.
that means saying yes to taking care of certain things.
Hmm.
Um, there's so much power in yes. There's a lot of power in no,
True.
right? And being
Hmm.
able to
Yeah.
say no, I'm not going to do that. There's a lot of
Boundaries.
people who are people pleasers, right? They
Hmm.
struggle with that. But there is so much power in saying yes to yourself. Yes, I deserve to be in that room. Yes, I deserve to be a game changer. Yes, I deserve to be heard.
Yeah.
Yes, I deserve to be compensated what I'm worth.
Hmm.
Yes, 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 yes. And if you tell yourself yes, you're going to move with that energy.
Yeah. I think yes creates no's too. If I've said yes to this and you come and ask me something, it's much easier to say no when I've already said yes to myself. Because if I say yes to
Yeah,
your thing, I got to say no to something I already said yes to.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good
So say
control.
yes to you. Like literally say yes to you.
Boom. I
And then
like it.
I would also say forgive yourself. Yeah.
Okay. I'll take two. I'll take two. Why not?
Yeah.
All right. Here
I would
goes.
also say forgive yourself.
I like
Right.
to go because we all have those moments. That's the guilty
Yeah.
aspects that hanker us. Final question, and
Yeah.
before I ask it, I would love to know where can I send people to watch your show, to be
Yeah.
around you, to absorb more Chef Bren.
Yeah. So, uh, Culture Kitchen with Bren is the show, and I'm elated because not only, so this is when I talk about like, say yes to you, right? Like when they approach me about the show, and I always have like a roundabout way of answering questions, but when they approach me about the show, I'm thinking I'll get 6, 8 episodes, which is customary for a first time TV host,
Yeah.
but they gave me 16 episodes.
Ooh,
So it's a big
that's
season.
big. Good.
Yeah. So, in fact, so the show Culture Kitchen is still running, season 1,
Nice.
every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern on Clio TV, which is on every cable distributor, every one of them. And if for whatever reason you don't have cable like myself, there's a streaming service called Philo.
Okay.
I don't know how you pronounce it, Philo, but I think it's Philo. I think Philo carries it, which is how
Okay.
I watch it.
Mm-hmm.
And then everywhere on social,
Nice.
it's literally just Bren Herrera. At the beginning and at the height of, because I was online before social media became a thing, right? So I was very quick to grab my name everywhere.
Yeah.
So I'm Bren Herrera, literally on all platforms. And for business inquiries and more of that element, obviously LinkedIn. It's also my name on LinkedIn, Bren Herrera.
Gotcha.
But yeah.
I like it.
Bren Herrera everywhere.
Everywhere.
And then my website is brenherrera.com.
Boom. I have my name's Anthony Trucks, and so there's not many people
Yeah.
named Anthony Trucks. So besides my oldest
Yeah.
son, and so I actually grab everything too. But I'm like, I hope he doesn't do anything like me because it's all mine. You can't have
So
it.
it's all yours.
Yeah. All right. Final question.
He might take Anthony. Isn't your middle name Hart?
My name is Hart. Hey, how could you know something about me?
Yeah.
It is. Well,
Hart.
he's Anthony Mack Trucks because the Mack Truck Company. So I was like, I'm gonna do names like my middle son is Torian Diesel Trucks. So we got some
Okay.
right, a little weird stuff there. And I got a dog named Tonka Trucks. So we got some weird stuff in the house.
Super Tonka truck.
Yeah,
Okay.
we did some cool stuff. I love this question. This
Branding
is
is so important. Branding
it
is
is.
so important.
It's dialed in because I think then you remember it. Then it stands out and like
Yeah.
and my youngest plays football, so the Diesel Trucks is a good
Okay.
one. As long as he can go and
A
be a
good
little
one,
like
yeah.
feisty like his dad was. We shall see. But no, this is my question. Here's the question: what promise did God make to the world when He created you?
Oh, you're gonna make me get teary-eyed. What promise did God make to the world when He created me? That I would be a faithful servant. Yeah, service is in my heart. Like it's again, I'm an empath. So like, oh, you caught me off guard. Yeah, service. Like service is so important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's again rooted in just we are so disenfranchised. And still 2021 with my own TV show and everything that you and I and your peers and your colleagues and friends and your family have been able to accomplish. I still feel like we're always fighting. Like we're always fighting to be seen and fighting to be heard and fighting to be respected and valued.
Mm-hmm.
But you and I are privileged. We're incredibly privileged because guess what? We get to do what we love and we get to do and share our talents. But there are so many people who don't have that, right? They don't. So I was born to serve. Yeah, I was born to serve, and I finally accepted that because it's not a burden, but it's definitely heavy. You know, it's something heavy because you wake up like, how can I serve people today?
Yeah,
and it requires a lot of energy when you are of service.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what the gift was to the world, or is to the world.
That's great.
That's a really great question.
Thank you. You know what?
I didn't mean to get choked up.
No,
It really does move me.
I would be lying if I say it was the first time somebody's ever got to that because it's supposed to be a deeper question because we talk in this and we go right and left, but I like to leave people with your heart. And so that's a question that somebody asked me one time, and it legit caught me off guard. I was at a Starbucks. I'm like, oh.
It really caught me off guard.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know what to do with that right now. Like, making me question my whole existence, like quite literally.
Yeah.
But no, I can feel it through you. I'm sure because I've done some TV stuff, and there are people you're around who you're like, man, I don't know if like people should be following this person. It's like, and they make the people that are working there like stressed out. So I'm like, when I do anything, I want people to leave that pocket of space and go, man, I didn't expect that person to be like that. They're warm, they're engaged, and like they made it enjoyable. And I want to be that Stan. I can tell it probably is similar with you, the people that show up and how you treat them. Yeah. So you're the kind of person the world needs to be paying attention to and following. So thank you for being you. Thank you for joining us here today. Thoroughly enjoyed your time and your story. I'm sure there's a lot more depth. I will probably tune in. I'll find Philo. Yeah. I'm in the realm of like I want to cook. I got a client who does like stuff, and I'm like I want to try to learn how to actually get a recipe and cook. My best friend does that. I can't yet, but we'll get there.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
he,
recipes. I always say recipes are again. Recipes are blueprints, if you will, and then you
yeah,
can just kind of make it your own, right? Like
yeah.
put your own thing to it. But yeah, just follow. If you don't cook, follow the recipe. The recipe, if it's a really good recipe, it will yield great results for you.
Beautiful. I'm gonna try that. And yes, thank you so much for being you again. Thank you guys for
Thank you for
tuning
having me.
in and hanging out with us. I know you could be quite literally doing anything else with your time, but you chose to come here and spend some time with us. And I pray that we gave you something in the time we took from your life. And I highly can tell that this took place. If you didn't listen again, because you might have missed some nuggets, but also if someone in your world needs to hear this story, maybe they need to feel the heart of Bren, share this episode. It's easy. Click a button, put it in their inbox, or just share it to the feed. You never know who's going to grab it and have it be that thing where they go, man, that changed my life. So thank you for being here. Thank you again, Chef Bren. I appreciate your time. And as always, make the most of your off shift moments so you can make shit shift happen. Both. This is Anthony Trucks and Chef Bren Herrera signing off. Hey, thank you for tuning in to the Shift podcast. I pray that we gave something amazing to your life. And if you found this episode served you in some way, I would love you could share it with people you know, people you love, as well as your community, because you never know who needs that simple little seed that can grow into something amazing for their life. And the actual training doesn't stop here. If you want your free copy of the show notes sent to you after every episode so you can get the major points consolidated down, simply go to textanthony.com and message the word notes. Till next time, make shift happen.